Welcome back to the Living Good with Jacob Living Good podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Living Good, and we're living good over here. Not really. Yes, really, but not really for this topic, okay? Very specific conversation today. I'm actually really excited to have this one. I've become enslaved. I am enslaved. Okay, I'm a slave. Let's break it down. All right. So this is more of like a life update podcast because it's been a while since I've had the fortuitousness, right, to film an episode. And for that, not only am I sorry for my viewership, but also I'm like kind of distraught about it a little bit mentally. It's been a battle, and let's talk about it because there's actually keys to be broken down here. So I've become enslaved to the Matrix. All right, what's going on? Why have I been gone so long? I got a job, a job, a just over broke, you know what? It's not fair, right? My manager told me, hey, he follows me. We're connected on socials. He's cool. He's a chill guy. He was like, look, he can't be look, he's African American, right? And context, right? Cool guy, but he's like, look, you can't, just because of like social stigmas, you can't be saying slavery, man. You can't really call it that. And I'm like, well, it is though. And he's like, it's just like that's like a touchy one. You gotta like weave clear of that. I'm like, all right, would it be better if I called it indentured servitude? And he goes, as far as definitions go, yeah, I mean, I guess that would be more accurate, right? And the key distinction between slavery and indentured servitude is one is against your will, right? That's the only difference. Well, it's kind of against my will, right? I've taken this job solely because I want to get a mortgage. I want to move into real estate. I've been a full-time digital nomad entrepreneur for almost 9 years, and all my income, because I'm smart, I deduct my income and pay as little taxes as possible. But then, as far as loan eligibility, I'm a risky lender. It looks like I don't make any money on paper, which is rather inconvenient. So I got a slave ship or an indentured servitude for the interim in order to get scaled up to the point of scale where that's possible. Now, also, I figured if I'm going to do this for a little while, I might as well go big or go home. And I got myself in the runnings for an actual career occupation that is actually something I would enjoy to do for, 35, 40 hours a week that will lead to a large government pension in a couple of years. So we'll talk about that later. Perhaps we'll never talk about it. We probably will. But this one's about the indentured servitude. I've become a slave to the Matrix. Now, I actually kind of feel more like, in the second franchise movie of the Matrix films where Neo goes back into the Matrix to awaken the NPCs, the programs, to their potential so that they can then go on and become Neo as well. I feel more like that. I'm like an undercover Neo disguised as an Agent Smith in this occupational role, which is kind of funny. I can't reveal what company it is or who I work for exactly because I actually signed a thing that said my brand identity digitally would stay separate. But what I can say is what the role is, not the company, and it's ramp, right? So I'm loading and unloading luggage on airplanes, and it's actually kind of fun, low key. Like, it's actually pretty fun. What's not fun is, look, I've been a full-time digital nomad for 9 years, and I've been fortuitous and blessed enough financially and through my level of scale and through my connections that I haven't had to have an occupational role. And, personal shout out and apology to all my students. God kind of like brought me down a couple of rungs to give me perspective, to actually make me a better teacher and coach, because, all my students that have full-time occupational roles and are trying to build their side hustle, having been now in this perspective, I realized that my wisdom that I was sharing with them wasn't exactly sound, right? Because I'm like, look, dude, it's not even a big deal. After you get off work, just lock in. You've done your 9 to 5. Now do your 5 to 9. Just like get it done. Do all your executive clerical tasks. It's that easy, right? Not realizing, okay, so after I get my occupational slave ship, my indentured servitude, there was a 9-day period, right? And this is going into why I have been AFK, absent for so long. There was a 9-day period, a 9-day chunk of change. I didn't even get to turn my computer on, not one time. Like my computer was off for 9 days straight. And actually, when I initially got into the training for this, it was actually over full time. It was almost 60 hours a week. And dude, I actually like fell into like a deep, dark depression for like, I would say 6 or 7-ish days, about a whole week, right? And here's why. Here's what happened, right? I'm deep into 75 hard, day 58 to be exact. So like well past the halfway mark. And I failed 75 hard at the same time that I was in this 9-day period where I didn't get to turn my computer on. So now not only am I failing my business objectives and my PQOs, but now I'm failing my physical health and those objectives that I've set forth long ago back in 2023. And I fell into this thought loop where I was buying into this garbage from the devil, where I was like, dude, my dreams have died. I've fallen back asleep. I'm just a cog in the matrix. I am a slave. I'm an Agent Smith. My dreams are dead. They're never going to come to pass. And now I'm just sodded to slavery and being destitute for the rest of forever. And I was thinking like this for like a couple days, and I really did actually get depressed. And then I was like, you know what? Wait a second. Same external circumstances, nothing changes except the way that I'm thinking about it. And what if, based on how I got into this job and why I got into this job, what if I'm actually just taking 2 steps back so that I can take 10 steps forward, so I can get a mortgage, so that I can get into real estate, so I can have another business running, growing, and scaling while I build all my things. And it allows me to do something that's outside of my clerical task load, that allows me to slow my mind and actually focus, get past the impasses that have stopped me for so long. Oh, okay. So now I'm doing the exact same things every day, but now my dreams aren't dead. I'm actually just taking a couple steps back so that I can rocket launch and jettison forward. That's a more self-empowering belief system. It works better. I get less depressed. And so even still, like I said, super special apology to all my students that I said, oh, it's no big deal. Just do your 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5, without realizing, because I hadn't done it myself, that it can actually be quite emotionally, spiritually, and physically draining to go to this occupational slaveship, or, indentured servitude, right? Your JOB, you're just over broke, to go and, get some cash flow. But then afterwards, you're like, all right, I want to lock into the things that provide me passion and purpose. But I'm just so worn down from the day. Or after you finish your week, you've got a whole day where you have to do laundry. You got to go do groceries. You got to get caught up so that you can be prepared to delve into the next week. And so it's all like an entire preparation day. And where that was something that was just less, it was more sporadic previously, right? So I'm learning perspective on what it means to be in an occupational role while also being a C-suite executive and building a business. And that is, I think what I'm really learning is that my time management skills aren't nearly as good as I originally thought. And that is a rude awakening. And so, yeah, I become a slave, and I'm kind of okay with it. It's not a really big deal. I still am locked in spiritually. I'm listening to sermons when I'm in downtime and I'm not busy at my role. I'm sending emails to brands, right? So in that 9-day period, I was still getting some clerical work done. I just not nearly as much as I really should. So, the whole idea that, oh, my dreams have died, like that's not great. It also really did suck that I failed 75 hard, literally almost done with it, like really close, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I failed. Like, come on, man. But I am in peak physical condition of my entire life. I weighed in today at 190 and 8.8% body fat percentage, which is wild. Like, I'm shredded. So I feel great. I feel great mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, right? Another thing about getting an occupational role is, for the last 9 years, my only income has been my businesses, so that when I have anything that's, discretionary or lifestyle expenses, it's coming directly out of my net profit from my business, which means in order to inject capital to continue to grow and scale the business, I have to live extremely meagerly in order to grow and scale, because every penny that comes out is a penny that's not going back into the business. And so I'm only relying upon net profits from the business, which is not a great way to hit critical mass and get to scale. And I knew that. And I was just stubborn and didn't want to get an occupational role. And here we are. And it's great, actually. It's actually taught me time management and efficiencies a lot better, which is like, I'm not there yet, right? I'm still trying to figure it out because obviously my time is parsed far differently than it was previously. And yeah, I think also a side note that's not really relevant to this topic of conversation, but I feel like I was listening back to some of my podcasts because I know I've dropped a couple of things in the podcast episodes. I don't know what episode this is, 48, 49, 50, something, who knows? But I've said a couple of times, hey, and I've said a thought form, and then I'm like, I need to do a whole episode on that. And I never wrote those down, so I'm trying to like backtrack and grab all those. But also, I realize I think I'm doing this whole podcast thing totally wrong because I've been coming up with like specific topics that I'm going to do an episode on, when in actuality, what makes more sense and what's more valuable to viewership or to myself or to up and coming entrepreneurs that are looking to bud and grow themselves through personal and business development is actually using it more as like a online journal of just video dialogue of myself, of the struggles I'm dealing with currently, so that you can see like a categorized, whatever word it is, like timeline of how things progressed for me and what were my impasses at the time, right? So I feel like I've been doing it wrong, and that's room for improvement, which is great. So we're only going to get better and better. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be in an occupational role or a slave ship or indentured servitude, whatever you want to call it, for an extended period of time, as long as you have a resolve and a definite aim and a purpose and a vision for where you're headed and what you're using that capital for. As long as it's being injected into something that gives you long-term fulfillment and can get to critical mass, you're good. You're good. What I don't think is okay, and I've dealt with this, a couple of people not gossiping at all, because I think that's actually what this part of the story is about. I think it's the lowest form of human connection. I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of energy, and I think it's just absolutely dumb. A lot of people at my work, a couple people have said, dude, you're like the weird quiet guy. Like, you just put your headphones in, you don't talk to anybody. Like, come on, man. Like, we're all friendly here. And, I'm working on my business when there's downtime. And a couple of times I've, paused my podcast, paused whatever I'm learning. I'm doing online courses. I'm sending brand emails while listening to lo-fi. I've paused it. And many times I've heard coworkers talking with other coworkers, just gossiping about how they hate X, Y, and Z person because of this, and that. Their work ethic's bad. They're always complaining, blah, 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 blah. And like, let me tell you what happened. First day out of training, I'm paired up with these two 45-plus-year-old ladies. And by the way, it's, ramp, it's 3 people typically running an airplane. So it's me and these 2 ladies. And these 2 ladies have both separately requested not to work with each other because they hate each other. And so this is my first day out of training, actually running the job without a supervisor. And the majority of the evening that I'm sitting here working, they're just yelling and complaining at each other and then trying to talk through me to them and saying, hey, go tell her this. And I'm actually just doing all 3 people's jobs. And it was like I was like babysitting. And I'm like, can you guys just relax and do your job? Like, we're here to do a job, and I'm not going to do everybody's job. That's wild. I will, and I'm not going to complain about it, but it's just kind of ridiculous because you're almost double my age and you guys haven't figured it out. You're arguing like we're in kindergarten. Come on. Right. And so I refuse. And where I'm going with this is like the problem with a lot of people that are in indentured servitude is they've become so indoctrinated into the Borg hive mind and slave ship as a lifestyle. They can't seem to think bigger. Like, they are just so good with being subservient to their life and their normalcy that they don't even have an idea of what it would mean to have a vision of more. And so they're just good with it, right? They're gossiping, they're spending all their money on perishables or liabilities, or, it's just, and I don't feel like it's my place, right? Like if someone comes up to me and books a consultation with me from social media and they want to learn about X, Y, and Z, financial liabilities, all this stuff, I'm more than happy to educate them, but they're coming to me in a facet where they're asking for that information. They've seen me as a SME, a subject matter expert, and they're like, hey, I want to learn from you, right? I don't feel like in that set and setting in a job, it's literally, it would be rude and off-putting for me to inject myself into their thought forms and go, hey, I don't know if you know this, but you're financially illiterate and I'd like to help you fix your life because you're acting stupid and you're thinking stupid, and that's going to lead you to being a slave, a peon, an NPC your whole life. It's not really like the set and setting's not right, right? Because they're not coming to me. They don't see me as a schmee. In fact, more than 90% of the people that I work with have absolutely no idea who I am, what I do, what I know about, the things I talk about. Absolutely no idea. And I kind of like it that way. That's what I feel like an Agent Smith, live time, where actually I'm Neo in a disguise and I'm just not letting anybody know. I like it. It's cool. I feel like a double agent undercover. So it's awesome. But it's awesome because I choose to have the perspective that it's awesome. Whereas when I first started, I was low key and probably pretty high key, noticeably depressed because it was cutting into my forward ambition and progress in my business. And mind you, by the way, in that 9 days where I didn't have my computer turned on a single time, actually, my business, clearly, the numbers digressed a little bit, but they didn't fall as much as I had thought they would, which was actually really cool because I was like, wow, to some extent, not fully, but to some extent, my income is passive. It dropped a little bit, but it didn't drop as far as I thought it was going to. So now I'm generating passive income. And in fact, I generate more income passively than I do at the job. The job does not pay well at all, but it comes with a lot of cool benefits. So it's all good. And it will get me a mortgage, which is also really great. Yeah. So that's basically the topic of today. It's like I willfully walked back into the matrix to become an indentured servant so that I could see how the other side lived, as well as get myself into an investment property, which is going to be quite the up level and it's going to be pretty cool. But at the same time, I'm having to relearn skills that maybe I should have already learned them, but God's timing, divine timing, perfect timing. I'm exactly who I am, where I need to be, when I need to be. So it's all good. But it has been quite the ordeal to adjust to the fact that, hey, maybe I'm not as good at efficiencies and time management as I thought I was. And maybe it's just because I was all in, locked in full time onto my business that it made it feel like I was doing better, when in fact, my PQOs weren't as high as they should have been that I was full time, right? And now I'm having to learn to pencil the same amount of workflow into a much smaller chunk of time, which is a skill that I was underdeveloped in. So I'm learning that, and I'm finding that I'm not great at it, and that's okay, because I'm just going to get better. Awareness is where you start to fix problems. I can't fix it if I don't know about it. So there's that. And also, it's actually being in a role where, when I went to a speaking conference about blockchain in 2022, and I spoke on stage, and then I got off stage and people swarmed me with cameras. I got interviewed on the spot. People are coming up to me for the next hour trying to pick my brain, ask for wisdom, ask questions that are valuable, and I'm giving them questions or answers to their questions that are also equally as valuable. That's a meritocracy, right? And those people saw me as an objective leader and a shmee because they heard me speak. They knew I was educated about a subject that they're trying to study on. And so it was a different dynamic there. Whereas when I'm working and nobody knows who I am or what I'm about, the energy dynamic's different, and people try to embark on conversations that are just different. And actually, something that I have found that's rather interesting, a lot of the gentlemen here that are between 32 and 45-ish, early middle adulthood, this has happened 3 specific times that I can recall. They'll just start talking to me and telling me their whole life story in deep, intimate, personal details before we've even exchanged names. We don't even know. I don't know their name. They don't know my name. They just start spilling all sorts of personal stuff with me. That's happened, and it's like, I don't know, is that something that is in my energy field that I'm just spilling out, that I'm just accepting of that information? Is that something where they can feel that I might have some keys that could help them, even though I'm younger than them? I don't know what it is. I think it's interesting. I also I'm receptive to it. I listen, I nod. I'm intaking the information. I don't come into those topics and those conversations where like know it all, be it all, I know everything. I ask leading questions that lead them to the information that I already know from educating myself and operating, that they can actually walk themselves down the line of thinking from where they were talking about to actually get to a conclusion. I'll give you an example. One of my coworkers that was telling me about his life and everything started talking to me about how he was super excited on his break that he had just financed a brand new 2025 MacBook or MacBook Pro, or one of the fleets of the Apple lineup. And I was like, nice, dude. That's like really cool. I mean, he's rocking with a really old Windows laptop, really old, like 2012. Thing's got like 4 gigabytes of RAM, garbage, slow, has a hard time loading search engines. And I was like, well, hey man, how much did you finance? And he's like, it was like $1,800 over 3 years. It's like 28% APR. It's like, all right, nice. So, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how much money do you have liquid right now? And he's like, well, I've got next month's rent, coming up in a week and a half here, and then I've got $400 left. So when the next paycheck comes in, I'll be able to pay that credit card statement. And I was like, all right. So would you say it's fair to say you're living paycheck to paycheck kind of? And he's like, I mean, yeah, right now, yeah. And I was like, okay, so you just financed $2,000 and you don't even have that money per se. You had to pay it off tomorrow. You wouldn't even be able to do that. And he's like, no, actually, no, I wouldn't. And I was like, okay. I'm not judging you at all, but I'm just asking, do you think that was a financially smart decision? And he's like, probably not, but I really wanted it. And I was like, all right, fair enough. I mean, wanting something's great. It's a good motivator, but I mean, consider practicing delayed gratification. Have you heard of delayed gratification? Then we started getting into, financial principles. I educated him on Think and Grow Rich. I told him to get a copy of it and read it and learn about it. I also told him to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, I'm not trying to be like overzealous or make people feel like there's some superiority complex. I'm not better than you because I am more financially literate than you. I'm here doing the same job you are, right? But I do think it's important that I help guide people in the right direction. And I don't love to see, and to loop back to where we were, the reason why I'm like the quiet guy with the headphones in at work and like not really quote unquote making friends with these people is because like a lot of them that I've seen, they're not even in the right vibrational field of thinking. Like their mind is so trapped in the slavery of the matrix that if I were to start talking to them about the things I understand, their eyes would just glaze over and I'd get the Agent Smith effect where they start defending their matrix programming because it's all they know to do, because their mind is so closed to the truth that they can't hear it. They don't want to hear it, right? And that's an interesting one. So look, I am undercover inside the matrix currently, trying to figure it all out, trying to get enough cash flow to hit critical mass on my business ventures. Also, another thing that I wanted to touch on, maybe I already said it in the pod. I don't know. I'm just free flowing. I like this vertical. I really, really liked it. I like talking on camera and just spazzing, letting my mind go. I really love this. I think that's why I ended up doing a podcast, right? But I had the 9 days where I didn't get to do anything. And in that 9 days, every day what I did get to do, I didn't get to turn my computer on, but I did do my vision planning. And I got to sit here after work every day, put in my headphones, put on 963 solfeggio hertz frequency, and just stare at my vision board right here. Just stare at it. I like doing that. And just feel the feelings of my wish fulfilled. Feel what it'll feel like to have all these things that are up on this board in my external reality. And every time I do it, I get full body angel bumps, goosebumps, chills. And I start crying because I feel it. I feel what this sacrifice every day, this delayed gratification is going to result in. That it is inevitable that I will achieve these things. And so I did get to do that every one of those days. And actually, what I've noticed being in an occupational slave ship or indentured servitude, having a job, just over broke, what I've noticed is actually, while my PQOs, my prolific quality outputs, have gone down and my execution has gone down, I'm getting less accomplished for my business. What I have noticed is the drive and ambition to create alignment with this future has gone up, right? It's paradoxical, right? Being enslaved has only made me more invigorated and fired up to not be enslaved, right? To be willfully subjected to this circumstance that, it's not terrible, it's not bad, but I'd rather not do it because I don't need to do it. It's more of an optional thing. But when I'm there and then I come back and I feel these feelings, I'm more fired up because I'm feeling these lows and I'm feeling this stuff that I don't want to feel, so that when I'm feeling what I want to feel, I appreciate it that much more and I'm fired up, right? So yeah, man, it's that's where I've been. We're going to lock back in. Actually, I've got a couple interviews scheduled. No, not dated yet. We don't have dates, but I've got a few pretty heavy hitter guests coming on, which I'm really excited about. Actually, it's going to be, we're going to have some great esoteric conversations, business development, personal development, self-mastery. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, that's where we're at. That's what's going on. That's where I've been. Mind you, I've also been, while I failed 75 hard and, I didn't get to turn my computer on. And also I was on the 3 a.m. club for the last 18 months, and inside training where I'm doing 65 hours and I didn't even get to set my schedule. I fell off the 3 a.m. club, clearly, obviously, right? How would that have been possible? I wouldn't have ever gotten to sleep. I'm off at 11 p.m. I'm never going to sleep if I'm still locked into my schedule outside of before I took this occupational role. And so I fell off my schedule, but what I didn't fall off of was the ice baths and was the gym. I stayed locked in. All right. The physical fitness, the first pillar, health, wealth, love, and happiness. The first pillar, still locked in, super locked in. No matter what, I didn't miss some days I even had to go in the evening. I didn't get to go before the job, the occupational role. And then I went in the evening because I had to get it in. I had to get the lift in. It was a non-negotiable, absolutely 100%. I'll cut out an hour and a half of sleep to go get the pump. And so that was in that 5-week period where I was doing this occupational role training. That was the grounding to my desirable future that stayed locked in, because in the gym, that was where I got to listen to a podcast or listen to a sermon or listen to solfeggio frequencies and just know that I'm, all right, look, maybe I'm failing in the wealth pillar right now. Maybe my business isn't getting everything done that I'd like to be getting done, and my actions aren't correlated with my desirable future perfectly right now. However, I am locked in physically. I'm staying on top of the things I said I'm going to do. I'm still eating clean. I'm packing a lunch every day. I'm hitting my macro targets, right? And so that kept me, even when I was depressed, even when I was dealing with that, negative perspective bias, I was still locked in physically, which feels good because back before 2023, that wasn't that wasn't something that was normalcy in my life. And what's interesting is, like, I actually train like a psychopath. I go 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, bare minimum. Sometimes I go to the gym for 4.5 hours. If I can fit it into the schedule, I'll literally do 20 working sets with my boys. I also work out with like a big group of huge, big bodybuilder guys, right? So we're not lifting for 4.5, 5 hours. We're actually, we're dorking around a lot of the time, okay? Let's be honest. But we are still working out. We're still getting a pump. But we are goofing off most of the time, some of the time. And so, to have that form of consistency and be super locked in on that, it feels good. It makes me happy that even in turbulent tribulation seasons, I can still stay consistent to most of the things that I said I was going to do. So I'm still trying to figure it all out. And as I figure all this out and where I'm going and how it's going to all work out, don't worry, you're going to hear about it. Because I think there's value to be extracted for each of you. Maybe not now, maybe in the future, maybe never. I don't know. But that's it. That's today's episode. The Matrix got me, but it's not going to hold me. So I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, blessed day. I love you. Stay winning, stay motivated, and stay blessed. Peace out.